gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another segment of the Cash Geeks Network. As you guys know, we come at you guys live every single Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, bringing the heat, bringing somebody in the game who's crushing it, high level, usually somebody smarter than me, so that I can learn something as well. And tonight is no exception. Super excited about our guest tonight. But before we get started, quick announcement to anybody who is tuning in and they are local here in Jacksonville. Thursday is the Yellowbird Connect event. So I'm going to be out there repping with the Cash Geek squad. Some of our team members have a roundtable discussion that we're going to be hosting, talking about hedge funds. So you want to make sure to be there. That is this Thursday. Hit me up if you need some details on that event. But with that being said, today's guest is somebody that I love being parts of masterminds because you meet people on different sides of the world. And I got to meet this guy for the first time in I think it was Cancun or Playa del Carmen or something like that. But this guy is basically the man behind, in my opinion, the best mastermind right now in the real estate game. And I have a ton of people from this mastermind on the show. And today I'm bringing the powerhouse, the man behind the scenes that I don't feel gets enough credit, my man, Eddie Rosefield. What's up, man?
What's up, dude? Thanks, man. I appreciate the words.
Yeah, dude. Cheers, man. Thanks for hopping on.
I didn't get the memo we were drinking, so
It's
we'll just
perfect.
pretend it's not water in here. How about that?
From all the times that we have met in person, you should always know I'm always drinking.
Touche. Touche. And you're right. You nailed it. We did meet for the first time in Mexico, but I was thinking about this when I saw this on my calendar. I was like, man, we've traveled the world together, right? We met in
Yeah.
Mexico. We've been in Belize together. We've been in
Right.
Vail and Denver and Austin and Scottsdale. I mean, that's one of the cool things you mentioned, the mastermind. It's one of the cool things about I love our group and our community because really what we get to do is travel together and do business together. And I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So really cool to see you. Pumped to be here, man.
No, yeah, awesome, man. And I really do mean that. I was just talking to Tim yesterday, Tim Heritage, and we were catching up on the phone yesterday, and we were both talking about how you guys really do have the best mastermind. Like we were both talking about how we're part of tons of masterminds, and it's so hard to go to all these events, but the ones that we absolutely do not miss are the boardroom, right? And so we were just talking about how like it absolutely really is the best mastermind, no fluff. And every time we go, the value is amazing, but you guys are always working on ways to make um, the mastermind better. And I have been using the directory on I hadn't used it forever, and I was like, when you
Yeah.
guys presented on that, I was like, holy shit, you guys have all that. So now, I'm in there all the time now. I'm like, oh, who do I know in this market? I just go in there, type up, it's pretty awesome.
I love
So
it.
with that being said, let's just get into who is Eddie,
Sure.
what is it that you do, and then we'll get on with the show.
Sure. We'll try and keep it short. So who is Eddie? I don't know how much of the backstory you really want. I'll try and keep it as concise and short as possible. But I grew up in Northern California and I graduated high school, kind of played high school sports, graduated high school, and I always had a passion around television and film. So I ended up actually going to college for television production. So I got a degree from San Francisco State in television production. I moved to LA and realized very quickly that the old kind of cliche saying of it's not who you know or it's not what you know, it's who you know is couldn't be more true, especially in that field. And I realized, at the time I had a fiance and we were really wanting to build a family. And I realized, working as a production assistant on these commercial sets for 18-hour days and making maybe $200 and not knowing when the next job was coming from, I quickly realized that wasn't going to be something that I could go full into. Right. So I had put myself through college working for major insurance companies, annuity companies, financial companies. So I already kind of knew insurance at a high level. I knew annuities. I had my PNC license in the insurance world. So really what I did is I went back to what I knew. Yeah, I went back to what I knew and what I put myself through college with. And I just started working various gigs, insurance and financial gigs in LA, and ended up landing a job for KB Home, who was a pretty large builder. They built in like 15 to 17 states, I think, at the time. Their headquarters were in Westwood, West Hollywood area. So I had a nice, cushy corporate job with KB Home. They relocated me to Las Vegas. So Clark County, they were actually the largest landowner in Clark County at the time. So this is about 2004, 2005, right when everything was going wild, right? So I'm older. I'm 44. So I lived through the Great Recession, if you will, right? So I was a corporate guy with KB Home for all that time, and after they moved me to Vegas, and I set up shop there for a little bit, working in their insurance and mortgage division. They relocated me to Phoenix, Arizona, and I flipped my house. I was building a house in Vegas at the time. Before it was done, I flipped out of it, bought a house in Phoenix, relocated with my family there. And 6 months after I bought my house in Phoenix, I think I bought your typical 4.2, cookie cutter starter home out here in Phoenix at the time. I bought it for 225, and 6 months after I closed, it was worth less than 100. I mean, I literally bought right at the peak of the market,
Wow.
2008, 2009, and then everything just shut off like a light switch, right? So at that point, it was really a matter of, okay, the markets, the sky's falling. KB Homes starts selling off land like crazy. They're, stop building. And I basically got my income cut in half. And then 30 days later, I got my notice, like,
Wow.
don't come to work tomorrow kind of thing. So I was really at a crossroads, man. At that time, I had always been very entrepreneurial at heart. I was never very happy in the corporate world, but it was a paycheck, and I was I was an ops guy, right? So I like systems and process. I like knowing where my next check came from. So I had a crossroads. I had my son at the time was 3 or 4 years old. I had bills to pay, and that crossroads was: do I go back into the corporate world and find a job that I hate or don't like and just pay the bills and play it safe, or do I take that leap of faith and actually become the entrepreneur that I've always wanted to and start flipping houses for myself and getting into the real estate game? So right in 2009, when the sky's falling, I took path B, if you will, and I stopped paying credit cards and car notes and mortgage payments, and decided that any dollar that I make for my severance package or unemployment at the time goes to feeding my son and trying to, any sort of marketing to start, wholesaling. So this is before a lot of red tape and regulations on short sales. So Justin Colby was one of my close friends. We known each other for 24 years, 25 years now. So we were always friends right out of high school at that time. So him and I were always the entrepreneur one in our friend group. So I called him like, dude, he was working for a brokerage up at the Bay Area. I was in Arizona. I was like, this is my time, man. I gotta make the plunge. Are you in? So we kind of combined resources, combined, brains, if you will. He's very much of a visionary type. I'm more of the behind the scenes ops guy. So we joined forces in 2009, and we started wholesaling short sales. It took us 9 months to get our first deal done.
Wow.
But we did. Yeah. I mean, that grind, right? You're starting to build that, the marketing and the network and building contacts. So, I was living off of like $330 a week on unemployment, just trying to keep, my kid paid and running from the guy trying to impound my car. And that's how we built the business. Couch surfing and running from the repo, man. And finally, that one wholesale deal leveraged itself into a couple more. And then we raised some private money and realized, hey, all these people that we're wholesaling houses to, these rehabbers, they're making a lot bigger rips. So we just started realizing, okay, let's make some contacts with some GCs and let's see if we can actually do a rehab. So we ended up doing one rehab. We had about $100,000 at the time that we had raised and stacked up through some wholesale fees. This is about a year in. And we decided, okay, let's do a rehab. So we bought a house for about 80. We put about 15 into it, and we just sat there to sell it. Like, we were all in, right? We didn't leverage it with hard money or anything. We just sat there and tried to, we got out of it, I think about 4 or 5 months it took us. And we made a little bit bigger pop on that. And we realized, okay, instead of doing one at a time, using all our cash, let's leverage with hard money and do 2 or 3 at a time. Yeah. Once that clicked, being a systems and processes guy, I started realizing, okay, if we have this much money, we can leverage with these lenders. We have these contacts. From that point that we decided to leverage with hard money and do 2 or 3 at a time, within 12 to 18 months of that time, we were doing an average of 12 rehabs a month in the Phoenix market. We just blew them. Right? We partnered with certain strategic money partners. We raised some capital, some private money. We had great hard money contacts at the time, and we just built a rehab business at scale. So we were due, I think it was 2010 to 12, that time frame, maybe a little longer. We were averaging about 120 to 130 rehabs a year. So that was kind of the, building all the systems and processes to get that business going. And then we very naively thought, hey, if we can rehab at scale, we could take on a development, right? Same, no different.
Same, but different.
Very different, right? So the long and short of that is we took on a development deal. Bad partners, went south. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. We got stolen from, skimmed. Contractors were bad. They were in cahoots. So let's just say that we learned a lot more than we earned. We did get out of that one successfully. Did not make much and hedged our losses as much as possible, but gained a lot of valuable insight from that. But that rehabbing business kept going and morphed itself into just all the contacts we made from buying at auction and buying at from wholesalers and our own marketing. We ramped up a wholesaling division of that, just for, as you know, wholesaling is a great transactional business to bring in cash while you're, if you're doing developments or rehabs, it's a little bit longer tail. The money doesn't come as fast and furious. So for that operational capital, it was good to have a wholesaling division. So that really took off around, 2014, 15. So we leaned more into that and opened up other markets, Dallas and parts of California. We just went into a couple different markets and just really started wholesaling. And then I would say about 5 years ago, Colby and I still to this day remain very close friends. But we decided, it kind of ran its course, right? He was going in a certain direction. I was going in a certain direction. Frankly, Gonzalo, I had burnout, man. We were only wholesaling at the time. And we were doing, it was a 7-figure wholesale business. We were doing 100, 200 a month. It was nothing, nothing to shake a stick at, so to speak. But
yeah,
I lost the passion of just flipping paper, right?
Dude, no, I'm getting there.
Right? You're knocking on that door, right? I lost the passion, man. I couldn't find, I had my why with my son and my family and everything. I'd remarried. I have a daughter now. And I was not spending enough time with my family. I wasn't able to take the trips I wanted to. I wasn't able to really, be a present father and a present husband. And I realized just flipping this paper doesn't feed my passion. So it was perfectly in alignment with Kent Clothier, who's the owner and founder of the Boardroom. Him and I have known each other for 10 plus years, 12 years. He's always been a mentor, a big brother of mine, to me at least. And Colby and I had gone in and worked as a contractor before to help him build out his coaching department years and years ago. We helped run the sales department years and years ago, but we always had our own core businesses going. But about 5 years ago, he had a void in his operations department because his best friend and operator at the time, Jerry, went on to help run his family business, REI Nation, what used to be known as Memphis Invest. So there was kind of a void in the operations at Real Estate Worldwide and the Boardroom Mastermind. And it was just kind of a perfect storm of timing where I was burned out. He had this void. We had wine together in Scottsdale at one of the events. And I just told him, look, man, this is where I'm at. And this is what I love business. I love architecting, and building processes and structures and optimizing things. Like high level operations was always a passion, but I just burned out on the transactional business. And he's like, well, this is what it looks like over here. And we talked and spent a couple of weeks really knocking things back and forth. And long story short, we came to terms that I didn't want just a W-2 job. I've been there, done that. I'm not a corporate guy. So him knowing I'm entrepreneur at heart, the best term, and I didn't, invent it by any means. I actually read a good book by Patrick Bet-David where he talks about the intrapreneur. And that's really the type of person that is entrepreneurial, but takes a role inside of an organization, probably has some equity, phantom equity or rev share, whatever that may be, but is really a piece of growing that long term, can see the upside, whether it's phantom equity, real equity on the cap table, whatever that ends up being. So we put together something that made sense for all of us. And fast forward, 5+ years later, full circle to what you and Tim were talking about, the Boardroom, it was already on a really good trajectory. I've been a part of a ton of masterminds myself, still am in other masterminds, not just to check out competition, but to constantly be sharpening my own tools, right? Always be learning. But I'm biased, but I would like to think that as far as a real estate and business mastermind, to your point, we're constantly trying to look for ways to do better. And frankly, we're nothing without our members. You guys are what really pushes it. So kind of cultivating the experience and allowing you guys to be authentic to who you are and what you're doing, I think is probably one of our biggest secrets to success. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the backstory, man.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome. So I'm curious, man, like what I guess what fires you up about the system side, the process side? Like what did you see as far as the void, right? Like for some people who are listening and maybe they don't have a systems process guy and maybe they think they don't need it, like they have it figured out, like what do we not know? You know what I mean? What is a void that most entrepreneurs have in their business who lack a systems process person?
Sure.
Um yeah, like what did you see when Kent was, had that void? You're like, "Hey, this is what I can do."
Yeah, that's a really good question. So early on, a lot of people, you've heard probably the question asked, "What's your superpower?"
Yep.
I would say I realized early on when I was business partners with Justin Colby is that most entrepreneurs and business owners in our space and otherwise, frankly, all spaces, they tend to be more often than not, they tend to be big picture, big thinker, visionary, high driver, concept idea people. Um, but they leave a certain chaos in their wake, right? If you're all ideas and concepts, it's very pie in the sky. But I've always realized my superpower, I'm probably about 65-35, that I'm 65 integrator and 35 visionary. So I'm
Got
enough
it.
visionary to where I can understand how you guys think and operate, and the path that you like to think and drive business down. But the 65 majority percent of me is my superpower is I understand just enough about how you think and where you want to go. But now let me take it and put some form and function to kind of the chaos that most visionaries leave in their wake, right? They need a good right arm. They need that execution arm, or that, I'm a big mafia movie fan, that, Godfather, the consigliere, the guy that's always over Michael's shoulder, that's always
Absolutely.
kind of whispering the advice in the ear. Like, that's how I've kind of always leaned into. That's my superpower.
Yeah.
By trade, I'm a private dude. I'm behind the scenes. I don't need the front of stage. This is actually rare for me to even do podcasts, to be honest with you. I've only done a couple of them. And it's not that I'm scared to. I've been on stages and stuff. It's more of I've always liked to be that behind the scenes guy. And I use this analogy, right? Whether it's Justin, whether it's Kent, if it's just them, that visionary, high driver personality that's running a business, they could be rolling down the freeway at 110 miles an hour, making a shit ton of progress, right? Just going full speed ahead, but the wheels or doors could be falling off. If it was just me as an operator with systems and processes, I might be a Ferrari dialed in, beautiful machine, but it's sitting parked idle in the driveway.
Mm,
Find forces like that, then you can actually be a Porsche, or that Ferrari driving down the freeway making some progress. It's the best of
right,
both worlds.
right.
So to anybody that may think like, I'm more of that idea, that visionary, that concept. I love these concepts, but I don't know how to make it reality. It's not always a business partner. It could be a hire.
Mhm.
I know you've probably read it, and a lot of people have, but one of the best books to read on this topic specifically is called Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. Same guy that did the whole EOS concept, right?
Gotcha.
Visionary, integrator, talks about it in his book Traction, which is the big one. But Rocket Fuel specifically talks about this dynamic that we're speaking to, is that visionary and that integrator, and the marriage of the two.
Yeah, and so I guess, like, 65% of you wants to make the systems tight, 35% of you needs to understand the long term of everything that you're doing and how everything pieces together.
Yep.
What would you say makes somebody, if someone were looking for that person, where
Mm,
would you think naturally this person is already?
yeah. It's it's difficult to just, they're not hanging out on trees, right? And we are all a circumstance, we're all kind of a product of our experience, right? So whether you look at the Boardroom Mastermind, other masterminds, who we surround ourselves with, if this is not by any means a mathematical or a proven scientific answer, but tell me if you disagree, but I feel like most people in our space are visionary types. It's like the 80-20 rule. Like
Right.
80% of the business owners in our space tend to be the visionary types, and it's the 20% that are more of the integrators, right? So the question of where do you find them is a great one. It's not unlike if you don't have them in your own sphere of influence, your own circle, or by one degree of separation through masterminds or just networking and asking, at meetup groups or whatnot, it could be just an actual hire, right? And I know you've heard of Team Architects, a company that I helped co-found. That's really what we work with a lot of our clients, boardroom members or otherwise, in a lot of different spaces, is that people need that COO. They need that integrator. They need the director of operations to take the vision and take the idea and actually make it a reality and put SOPs around it. So really, that Team Architects was born a few years ago because of this void. To this point,
Mhm.
integrators and operators are not as easy to find as the visionary types. So, really that's what Team Architects does. We have a whole system around, how to place a good job, how to craft a job ad, where to place it, how to optimize it to get a big candidate pool. And most importantly, how to use a very specific assessment. It's not just a personality assessment. It's also a cognitive assessment, right? So it's both cognition and personality. And there's a very cool mix of personality and cognitive traits that most high-level operators have. And we build a custom assessment for a director of ops or for a COO. So if you're, a visionary type leader and you need that operator type, that's who Team Architects, that's who we work with, is people that need to hire. It could be anything, right? Sales, transaction coordinator, it could be anything. But a lot of people are coming to us right now and saying, I need this operator. I need the COO. Where do I look? And that's where Team Architects was born a few years ago, just to help solve that.
So real quick, I'm happy that was a perfect segue, right? To I have a follow-up question real quick, and then I want to get into Team Architects.
Yeah.
But so part of that, right? Like if you aren't, and this is just a question, right? If you aren't big enough or scaled enough, when is the right time to bring on this person? Like, can someone be not big enough to have this person? How, like, when do you have to bring this on?
Yeah.
Typically, these people, aren't really your everyday hire, right? They're hard to find. They're expensive, probably either some equity stake, maybe.
Yeah.
So like when does someone take on an implementer?
Great question. There's not one right way to do it. I would say one of the more common and natural progressions, if you're earlier on in your business cycle, let's kind of wave a magic wand and come up with a hypothetical scenario that you are 6 months to a year into a real estate investing business, wholesaling business, or something like that. You're a visionary type leader. You're a lone wolf, right? You're doing this thing on your own, and you realize, I'm getting deals done. I'm getting some traction, and some things are getting across the line, but I feel like I'm always busy. I'm doing administrative stuff. There's never enough time in the day. I can't work on the business because I'm always in it. I'm opening up title and escrow, and I'm realizing, I got to, deal with this agent and this rep over here, talk to this wholesaler to make sure this contract got signed. That to me is the most common life cycle that visionary type business owner needs to make their very first hire. And it's not a COO or a high level integrator. That very first hire typically should be an administrative assistant or an executive assistant. It's someone that could the very best first hire, in my opinion, for that type of avatar is an admin assistant that can get all the administrative stuff off your plate. Bring someone in at an admin level, 20, 25 an hour tops, that can quickly come in, even part-time, right? 20, 40, 20, 30 hours a week, and quickly identify, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis that you as a CEO, as a business owner, should not be doing. Things like opening up escrow, or things like making sure that this contract is drafted properly. Those are all things that an admin assistant can very quickly take off that visionary or that owner's plate, that CEO's plate. Then once that is freed up, you get a certain amount of hours back, and you start to reallocate that to working on the business. Usually the life cycle of this is that admin assistant, either the cream rises at the top. If it's a very good admin hire and that person can kind of grow with your organization, then you can start giving a lot of operational tasks to that admin assistant. Now, without fail, they're going to hit a ceiling, right? You're going to basically not run out of bandwidth, but they'll hit a ceiling in that based on their physical ability, their cognitive ability, whatever it may be. And at that point, you've at least got some sort of structure in place. And I would have that admin assistant really start putting down on record what is our current system, like deal cycle open to close. Like as soon as we spend a marketing dollar one gets spent in a certain marketing vertical all the way into when that deal closes and the wire hits the bank account. I would task my admin assistant to document every step of that process, so you at least have something on paper. And once you, at that point, have an admin assistant, you get your time back as a visionary, and you have a very general start to finish SOP documented from your admin assistant. That's when you can start looking for a potential operator, maybe a director of ops to come in. And this is assuming you have sales hires and you have people in the phone closing for you and all that stuff. The real brutal answer, Gonzalo, is that you're going to have to do it yourself with an assistant for a while until you realize, okay, I now need to go be the rainmaker that's building relationships and pushing culture, because we got a few hires now. Maybe you need to repurpose your time running the sales team, because that's, contracting with sellers is where the money's made. So you need to focus there. So that might be the time that's like, okay, it's time to bring in a high level operator. Now that a little bit of my time's freed up and I got to focus on the sales team or the culture and driving the vision forward, that operator can come in and look at the loosely defined and documented process. And the right operator is going to be able to come in, step in, and realize the gaps and where to optimize and really take that up to the next level. And to your point, that could be an expensive hire, but it could also be a partnership. It could be, hey, I can pay you X right now, but as we grow, I'll give you a certain percentage of the up, paid quarterly. As long as you hit certain KPI benchmarks and, make them part of it via either phantom equity or a rev share. And then, they have skin in the game because they want the revenue to grow, because their quarterly bonuses will grow, right? Their rev share will grow. So now you have more of a business partner in that type of. So that's, again, not one right answer, but that is a very typical life cycle for someone that's a lone wolf that makes a first hire that eventually identifies that they need to get an operator in place sooner than later. Got
it. No, I love that. And I love the brutal honesty of like, dude, in the beginning, you got to suck it up and do it yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to, it is what it is. Get it as far as you can, So
frankly, if you don't, how well are you going to be able to articulate or even tell a new hire what to expect, right? Again, how can you properly bring somebody on board and tell them about your organization and how everything's working current day if you haven't done most or all of the functions in your organization, or if at least familiar with them, right? That's why I think having that admin document your process start to finish, dude, you'd be surprised. I know a lot of 7-figure business owners that do not have SOPs in place. They don't have anything documented in place. And they're just kind of running things off of Excel and Google spreadsheets and, maybe a CRM for lead management, but actually documenting your sales process and your deal flow process and just having something on paper. I can't stress the importance of that enough, is to just get something documented and on paper.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And okay, so what is Team Architects, right? So you talked about that, right?
Yeah.
And obviously the hiring is a challenge for business owners. And so you guys figured out something called Team Architects. So what is that?
Yeah. Well, what it was and what it is two different things, right? So another boardroom member, Steve Richards, and myself, along with Kent, started this company about 3 years ago. Jerry, who's Kent's best friend, is also on board now. We brought him on board earlier this year to help kind of run point on certain operations. But long and short of it is kind of V1, or the first iteration of Team Architects. It was really us identifying that a lot of people in our space, the real estate investing space, they're not very great at hiring. So we realized, okay, what's the biggest? I did a data analytics course from Wharton Business School. Again, me being an operations guy, I like to research. I like to, get as much knowledge as I can, build the foundation, and then act. So in my research and in my data analytics course and studies, I actually ran across a stat that most Fortune 500 companies, the ones that are the best of best at hiring, they have HR departments that handle all of this, the best of the best are only 60% effective at making a hire for, the first time hire for a certain role. So that's the gold standard, is 60% success rate, right? It's not 100% like a lot of people would assume. So small to medium sized business owners like you and I, we're lucky if we're like 30 to 40% effective. Yeah. So in this research, what was actually gleaned from this class was that the best of the best identified two things that help them get to that 60% gold standard of a successful hire. I'm going to throw out work examples because it doesn't really jive with our kind of space. It's very hard to get work examples when you're a real estate investor. But really the two things, the number one thing is an assessment. You've got to have some sort of visibility to this candidate that's potentially coming into your organization. So that number one is assessment, and the number two is a structured interview, which I'll circle back to in a second. So what we realized was, okay, what assessments are out there, right? You got the PI, the personal index. There's a lot of them, right? There's a bunch of them. The DISC, Colby, right? Personal index, Myers-Briggs, but all of them are personality tests, which is great because having visibility to personality is better than nothing at all. But most people that say, yeah, we use assessments as hiring tools, 99% of the time they're using one of those personality tests, which again, better than nothing. Yep. But what we realized a few years ago was, okay, that's only half the story. You could find a perfect personality fit for a sales role in your organization, but what if they don't have the mental processing power? What if they don't have the cognition, the actual cognitive ability to do the role, whether it's in sales, operations, fulfillment, whatever it is? So we actually worked with a behavioral psychologist and really leaned into their resources, and we built our own custom assessment tool that measures both personality and cognition. So we call it TA12, stands for Team Architects 12, because we have 12 different traits that we measure, 8 personality traits and 4 different cognitive traits. The cognitive traits are rapid problem solving, so how fast you can think on your feet, logical problem solving, vocabulary, and spatial visualization, which is, how many can you look at a problem from multiple angles and see multiple solutions. So those 4 cognitive traits are huge when you're making a high level hire, right? So we realized, okay, let's use this assessment tool for Team Architects clients. And we built in a structured interview. So circling back to that second thing, I don't want to make assumptions, but usually when people hire, I don't know how you hire, but usually when people hire, they throw up a job ad, they get applicants that come through. And whenever they do the interview, it's very much intuitive. It's gut feel. It's, hey, here's our organization. This is what we do. Tell me about yourself. Why are you looking for a job? Do you, what do you see? It's very kind of on the fly, gut, intuitive. Yeah, I felt good about that candidate. We can maybe make them an offer. It's very kind of willy-nilly.
Right. All right. Yep.
Structured interview is what we actually tail this assessment with. So let's say a candidate takes the assessment. It's a 0 to 100 score. If you're 70 or above, you're a high fit. So it's a low, medium, high fit. So first and foremost, the assessment can save you a ton of time as a business owner or hiring manager, in that if you have 100 people apply for a job and only 50% of them take the assessment that's right there in your job ad template, very specific instructions to take the assessment, 50 to 60% take rate on the assessment is average. So you've weeded out, 40 to 50% of the people right there. Huge time save, right? Yeah. So now of the 50% that take it, your 100 candidate pool went down to 50. So of the 50 people that take it, you might only get 20 people that score 70 or above for a high fit, both on personality and cognition. So now what used to be a 100 candidate pool that you might be sifting through all these resumes and making calls and doing initial phone interviews, you now only have to focus on the 20 or 30 that were a high fit and above. So it's a huge time saver from the assessment. Not to mention you have direct visibility to how they're going to show up in the job. Because this assessment, I forgot to mention, the assessment we built is it's different from the personality assessments in that it has a cognition, but it's also different in that it's not the same test for everybody. We build a custom assessment per job role. So if you came to me and said, I need to hire a sales rep and I need to hire a transaction coordinator, they're taking 2 different assessments. And the traits are weighted differently, right? So you have great visibility to why are they high fit? What's their spatial visualization? What's their personality traits? So, and then how they ended up taking the assessment and however they scored, our tool automatically builds a structured interview for you. So when that person comes into your office or jumps on your Zoom, you already have the interview questions to ask them based on their strengths and weaknesses of their assessment. So you of course can customize the interview, ask certain specific questions to your company, customize it and throw in your own personal questions there. But you've got about a dozen structured interview questions that is going to give you as the business owner or hiring manager the best visibility to that candidate. So that's really what Team Architects was. That's the first version. Is we rolled that out a few years ago, and we realized we're saving a ton of people time. They're hiring the right people, and it was really, really successful very quickly. And we just rolled it out to Boardroom first, and then a couple outside clients. We technically to this day still haven't gone public with it. We've only just been in certain mastermind groups. We haven't rolled out affiliate programs necessarily. It's been very word of mouth and organic.
Yeah.
But we know it's a good product because it's catching on like crazy, right? It's a need
Yeah.
in space.
So
Now
how
the
do
second
people sign up? Like what is
Oh yeah. Well, I think it flashed down there, but the teamarchitects.com/join. There's a few videos on there. I would recommend watching a few of the videos.
okay.
It's a monthly, you can do it monthly, every 6 months, every year. But long and short of it is this: it's a good segue to tell you kind of what it's morphed into. Because what we realized, Gonzalo, is after running it for about 2.5 years, is we realized that our clients were able to identify and hire the right people. So right job for the right role at the right time, everything looked great. But we quickly realized after a few clients didn't have that person work out after the initial, 30, 60, 90-day probationary period. We started doing exit interviews with our clients and figuring, okay, why didn't it work out? We quickly realized that 99% of the time, it was not because it was the wrong person or the wrong hire. It was because they didn't have the back end figured out. Meaning you can hire the right person for the right role at the right time. But if you don't know how to onboard them, train them, manage them to specific KPIs, and then lead them to your company culture, then that hire is almost, moot point. It's almost doomed to fail over time. Because imagine hiring a kick-ass rock star sales closer, but you have zero onboarding, your training is bullshit, and you don't even have any KPIs in place to manage that sales rep, or you don't have clear visibility to, hey, here's the comp plan, here's the tiered structure, here's how you get to, this compensation or this commission structure, and I'm going to manage you to these KPIs every week and every month. If you don't have all the onboarding, training, and management dialed in, then again, doomed to fail. So that's really the second iteration of Team Architects. Is we turned it more into kind of a membership base, if you will. So it's right now it's priced at $1,000 a month. And what we built out is it's a platform. So if you join Team Architects today as a moment in time, we have 7 core roles in most real estate businesses, like the sales, dispo, TC, admin, operations. We have 7 core roles built out, and we have the whole suite built out, everything from front to back, and meaning the assessment, how to onboard them, how to train them, what KPIs to actually manage them to, where would they fit in your org chart, a good employment contract. Basically, the whole back end. I told you we realized people were mostly missing because they don't have HR departments or anything, and they haven't hired at scale.
Dude, we're just wholesalers.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. So, this is a full circle moment. You asked me why am I passionate about the systems and the operations? I love having mastermind members, Team Architects clients that I can add a little bit of a spin to, like, hey, have you ever think about this or put this system in place or this process in place? And then it's like, it's putting, rocket fuel, it's putting gasoline on their fire, right? It's like when they come back to me and like, I can't tell you how much joy I get from somebody like Alex Gearhart, right? Like he's a big, he's a mastermind, Boardroom mastermind billionaire member. He runs a roofing business. He hired a COO with Team Architects help. And every time I see the guy, he like gives me a hug because it was such a life-changing hire for him. That's hugely like that just puts a smile on my face every time, because that's where I get passionate from now, is that if I can help just tweak the knob on your business a little bit, optimize it here, put a back end on your hiring process there, or make a connection over here with our mastermind. And then I see the ripple effect for your business, your employees, the families of your employees. That ripple effect is really what feeds my passion now. And because I think that my superpower of putting systems and processes in place to the visionary type leader, and because there's not as many of my type of people in our world, at least, I do get a front row seat to seeing that ripple effect. And that's feeding my why more than, I don't get burned out as easily in a transactional business now, because I have that ripple effect that I can kind of point back to, and I'm, helping making real-time changes in a lot of people's lives.
Dude, I love that. And I'm sold. I'm in.
Well, I didn't even. So I think I mentioned the team architect. So I'm by no means a sales guy at all. I'm not here to pitch anything necessarily. So I appreciate you even bringing it up. But to answer your question, what it is team architects right now. You can pay either 6 months or 12 months, and it's discounted. But put it this way: if you were to hire a headhunter to go hire one role for you, whether it's a salesperson or a COO, most headhunters charge about 10 to 12 grand, depending on the role. And they're going to go run their own process. They're going to go identify them, source them, do whatever they do, and then hand you that candidate on a silver platter for 10 to 12 grand. And there might be some back end, right? If you keep them on board for a certain amount of time. With us at Team Architects, $1,000 a month, which is 12,000 a year if you pay monthly. I think it's down to like 6 or 8 grand a year if you pay in full or for a year at a time. And we give you 7 core roles with all the assets, and ability to hire and onboard yourself with your own team. And that's just for $1,000 a month. So it's a fraction of the cost that a headhunter would cost for one role. We give you the assets, resources, and roadmap to all 7 of those roles. And within a few weeks, I think we're dumping leadership and C-suite in there too. So people that want a COO or a chief marketing officer or even a CEO, or a sales manager, the whole C-suite and leadership is going to go in there for no additional cost shortly. And then I would say about 30 to 45 days from now, we're doing it done for you. Because a lot of people are like, okay, I have the roadmap, I have all the assets and resources, but I still have to place the ad myself. I still have to scan the people myself. I still have to set up the interviews myself. So we're about a month or 2 away from rolling out the Done With You service, where our team on the back end does all that heavy lifting for you and just tees up your interviews for you.
Wow, that's awesome, man. It's crazy. And it's
It's a
crazy
void.
that it's
Like you
blowing
said,
up.
you guys are wholesalers, you're real estate investors, right?
Yeah,
It's a void in the market, like anything,
that's
like
what I
any
was
business.
about to say. It's crazy that it's like such a need.
Mhm.
Um, and what you're talking about, a lot of people probably don't think exists. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
especially for our like such a niche industry,
Right.
right? So I think that's awesome
Thanks,
because
man.
most people out there are like, man, I wish that something like this existed. And it's happening.
Right.
And so that's awesome because that's what I wish I had. You know what I mean? And you kind of have to slowly build it yourself, and it sucks because we're not good at building that stuff.
Dude, how
Uh,
many times have you made a bad hire? Because we all
oh,
have.
dude. Bro, I thought after a ton of bad hires and I had a good streak, I was like, bro, I'm doing good. And then you slip again, and you're like, damn.
Because it makes you
Yeah,
question everything. Like, what did I do wrong this time? Because it worked so much.
absolutely,
Now,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
really
if you're highly analytical, you're like, fuck, I know that was my fault.
right.
Like, you're like, "Damn, like, that one didn't work out, but, like, I've just been super busy here, and, like, I didn't give the attention here or whatever," and you're just like, "Damn,
Yeah.
that was my fault." Yeah.
And if you really want to make yourself sick, is you look at the actual cost of a bad hire. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's sales or ops or anything, because especially if you're a smaller organization, let's use you for example. I mean, you're not a small organization, but if you, the CEO, has to stop down and help with onboarding and training, and you pour months of time, energy, money into hiring, onboarding, and training this person, and then 90 days later it doesn't work out because you just didn't realize ahead of time that they weren't the right fit cognitively, personality wise, didn't onboard them right. I mean, we've quantified it on the back end. It depends on the organization, but it's not uncommon for a bad hire to cost an organization like yours and mine 10 to 12 grand easy. Like no
Mm,
problem.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true, and we don't look at it that way, but when you put it that way, it's like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
No,
Insurance
yeah,
policy.
man.
Like $1,000 a month is that insurance policy to make sure that you have good visibility in the front end with an assessment and the right interview. And then you have the back end assets that
Yeah.
okay, well, where do they fit in the org chart? Oh, there's a comping tool. You don't know what to pay them? Cool. Use the comping tool that we have in there to realize what do you pay your
Right.
TC? All right,
Mhm.
cool. Let's plug it in the comping tool and see what it kicks out.
Right,
So it's
right. Oh, that's awesome.
really the best way. Like if I had to elevator pitch you, I'd say Team Architects is that fractional HR department.
Right, right.
That's
No,
what.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because if you're a true visionary out there listening and you feel like you need this, but you're like, "Oh, man, 1,000 bucks a month." I guarantee you, if you're a visionary, you probably have more than $1,000 in paid subscriptions on programs that you signed up for that
For
you are
sure.
not using on your business.
Yeah.
I know that because I did that this morning, and I'm like, "Oh, shit, we're paying that still?" Like, dude, I haven't used that in fucking 8
This sounds like it's
years.
a fresh point
Yeah,
of
yeah.
attention,
So I'm
but
like, "Bro, I can think of so many programs that I'm not using that I can cancel for $1,000 a month."
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man.
I actually just brought it up because go figure. I didn't even realize. So it's right now. I think we're doing 1,000 a month. It's $4,500 for 6 months, and it's $6,000 for 12-month membership. And there's no contracts either. We don't like lock you in or anything. So
That's
anyway,
awesome, man.
yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So what are you most excited about right now? Like, you guys have cultivated this community of just freaking sharks, right? And everybody in there is hungry, growing, and I feel like I don't know, like, what is next? Like, how does this become better? What are you guys working on behind the scenes? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, great question. There's a lot of things I'm most excited about. And you were in Austin. I think you heard us talk about kind of the things that are on the horizon, but I'll answer you very, very directly, and then we can kind of get into it. What I'm most excited about is being the absolute best community for our space possible and finding new ways, new and never done before ways to just consistently get better at cultivating this mastermind and this think tank community um, to a degree that no one's ever seen it done before, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean earth-shattering ideas. Like I said before, it's the high-level members like yourselves that are a part of it that really drive it. But if we can cultivate the experience and the community, I mean, for lack of a better term, we're an event business, but it's unique in that we're an event business that puts on 6 events a year, fulfillment events, right? Our 4 quarterlies and our 2 billionaire experientials, 6 events a year. So we are an event business, but we're all run by people like Kent and myself that are actually in the real estate investing business also. So we wear 2 hats, right? It's the passion of being able to run very high level events and understand that business vertical from a P&L standpoint and a performa standpoint, and be able to understand how event businesses run, which is very different than a real estate investing business or other verticals. So getting to know that just feeds my thirst for knowledge and getting better.
Yeah.
But then to also put the other kind of consultant coach hat on and be able to work with our clients at this granular level of, we have these power days with them sometimes, or invite them over to the office, and we'll dig into their marketing verticals, their KPIs, their spreadsheets, their processes, and we really go into the hood, and we can actually make real changes to people's businesses because we also are in this business too. We're not just an event business that's setting it up. It's like we're real-time investors, right? We have a portfolio. We run transactional businesses. We hire teams to go do XYZ. We have pieces of funds where we lend money out. So we're also in the space. And we cultivate the space at a high level. So what am I most excited about? It's to continue to go. It's funny. Kent being the visionary, the amazing visionary leader that he is, it's always like, okay, what's next? Let's do something bigger and better and splashy. And it's almost like a yin and yang relationship. I always am kind of that one that's like, look, let's look the last 18 to 24 months, we have experienced exponential growth, not only in quantity of Boardroom Mastermind members, but quality. Like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I've heard it from you and others that it's not just the amount of people we're scaling, the quality in the room is also leveling up like it was, like it hasn't been a year or two ago. It's the quality's at an all-time high. So I'm always the one that's like, let's not shake things up too much. Let's just go deeper and do more of what's working, right? Like if it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's just go deeper and do more of what we're already doing, but just do it even more efficient, do it better, right? So it's really about finding who's the next best speaker that can come in and give relevant and timely value. Like when we were in Austin together, we had, Bridger there, right, to talk about funds because so many of our members are starting funds, right? Or Ari was there talking about, how he runs a family office. We had a lot of high level members that kind of run their own family office or have their own funds. So it's very timely. It's about finding the best content, the best speakers, cultivating the best environment, letting the best people in. I mean, frankly, like the actual locations matter too. We're booking venues a year and a half out.
Dude,
So
the venues are sweet, man. When you guys did that at the freaking Fairmont and freaking
yeah, Scottsdale's bad. The
Scottsdale,
Fairmont,
dude, that was yeah.
it's a good one. Yeah, and this is the shit that gets me excited about business, dude, is because I like the systems and processes. Our group, let's say it's 240 members today as a moment in time, but we've been growing at such a pace. Now I've got to book a venue 18 months from now.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here looking at performas, and I'm,
Right.
working forward to basically project out 12 to 18 months and what their growth cycle and everything. You tie it all down to what dollar you spend on marketing, what your conversion is. Like, I live in spreadsheets. I live in the numbers to understand I've got to book the right venue and the right rooms and the right space and the right food and beverage budget 18 months from now, because that's how far out some of these venues are booking. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just about doing what we're doing, but doing it at a higher level and doing it better. And, so many people in the mastermind space, I don't know if you've experienced this. I have, to where I've been a part of some masterminds where you feel like you just hit a ceiling. Like, you've been a part of it for 2 or 3 years. And you feel like you've kind of cycled out. The people are roughly the same. It's kind of clicky. Really, it's really.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? And I would be naive to think that there's not a little bit of that in our group. I'm a realist. I understand that. Whenever you have 240 plus A-type, high driver, visionary type business owners, you're going to have some of that friction and noise.
Right.
You can't ever please everybody 100% of the time. But at the end of the day, I want to cultivate a community and an experience 4 to 6 times a year where people are excited to show up. To your point where you're talking about Tim, these are the ones you block out and you show up to, because every time you show up, it's at a cool place. The people are at a very high level, and there's always new faces that are at a high level.
Yep.
And frankly, I don't know if a lot of other people do this in the space, in the real estate mastermind space or business mastermind space, but we realized a while ago is that cycling, that hitting the ceiling, is a real thing. So we put together what's called our MIGHT program. Stands for Mediocrity is the Enemy. Kent loves acronyms. But after 3 years of being in as a full-time paying mastermind member, 3 years, at least one of them at our billionaire level, we actually chopped down your annual membership fee to a fraction of what it is, to basically just keep people in the community and keep pouring in as a resource. And they can still, kind of, it's a give and a take, right? As you know, it's not just a handout take. There's very high expectations from our group. When you show up, you've got to also give. But again, that's what's also helped us grow and renew at such a high rate, is that we recognize that after 3 or 4 years, people start getting, antsy, right? They want to see grass is always greener. What else is going? Oh, there's a new splashy mastermind over here. Let me maybe not renew and go see what they're about. But end of the day is, we know we have a lot of members that are a part of a lot of other masterminds, and it's not that I don't pay attention to the competition, but I'd like to believe that we have our lane, we have our space, we're good at what we do, and we just want to do a lot more of that.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I love the structure of the mastermind at the events, right? Really, really great facilitation, right? That's very important, especially in anytime you have a breakout room, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're always like, oh shit, I want to be in that room. Like, like that. Oh, that guy's in that room. Shit, I want to like. And so, because you know how it is, right? And I just, every single time you're just like, damn, I was where I needed to be to hear what I needed to hear, right?
I love that feedback.
And that's hard to do.
It is hard to do, and that's one thing I've not outsourced to my event team, in that I still hold the placement and the cultivation of the breakout rooms. So as a moment in time, we have our Q4 event in San Diego is going to be 8 breakout rooms, which either 7 or 8. It just depends on the attendance. But again, it's kind of like herding cats, right? You got 8 different rooms, you got 8 different facilitators. We're now at a point where we can start placing people that are in very specific verticals in similar rooms. So a lot of people, if you're talking multifamily, you're going to be with a handful of multifamily. If you're talking about starting and running a fund, you're going to be with like-minded individuals. Before we were kind of at the membership landscape that we are now, and frankly, other masterminds, when they still have the breakout element, they tend to do like levels of business. Like if you're a newbie type, you're in this room. And if you're a higher level, you're in this room. But we have organically kind of weeded out the newbies. It's a very strict kind of barrier of entry, if you will. You've got to be doing a certain amount of revenue, a certain amount of deal flow to be in the room, period. And if you don't qualify, it's no harm, no foul. We have, kind of an accelerator coaching program to get you up and ready for the mastermind. But if you're in the door and you are a member of the mastermind, I think you've experienced it. The walls fall down. Your credibility is automatically there with the group because you're in the building, because we don't let the hobbyists, the newbies, the type of people that are just doing this, figuring out their way. They've maybe done a deal or two and they want to figure out how to deal. This is people that do this for a living. They've running a business and now it's time to take it to the next levels and add certain verticals. We have people that are looking at potential 9-figure exits in their core businesses. These are the type of members that we're trying to bring into this community and constantly level it up.
No, that's awesome, man. And how does the organization look, if you don't mind me asking? Like, or how would a good org chart look for a successful, scaled out business?
What type of business vertical? Like a wholesaling company or a real estate company or like an event company, like any business?
If we can talk real estate company, that would be ideal, right?
Yeah, there's not one right answer, but my answer 6 months ago is a little different than it is today. And the main reason for that is because we also do EOS in our organizations, right? So EOS, back to Gino Wickman and that whole system. He's very based. It's very much the CEO or the visionaries on top. It's visionary integrator on an org chart. So if you're looking at that organizational chart, visionaries up top, integrators right below it, and then all departments or employees or contractors, whatever your structure is, report up to the integrator. And that's that layer, that ancillary layer. So we're running EOS. That's what we run now. But it wasn't very different before that. It was, Kent is the CEO. In any real estate organization, by the way, if you're the CEO, you should most likely have some sort of integrator, implementer, or operations person as that layer of that ancillary layer. Because most visionary leaders, they're good at running culture, but if they have to be a direct report to sales guys and a transaction coordinator or an admin assistant that works for somebody else in your organization, it's, a visionary leader can burn out some lower level employees, right? They could be just too much. The personality, it's good to have some sort of ancillary layer, right? So back to, when we were running our transactional business, and we think Justin was our CEO and our visionary, and he handled marketing. So anybody that worked on our marketing would be a direct report to Justin as the CEO. And then I handled all the other things. So our sales team reported up to me, our admin staff reported up to me, our transactional coordinator reported up to me. So that was really our org chart, was CEO and COO up at top. And the only direct report to the CEO was marketing in our case. And that's common, by the way. Even in our organization now, Kent, as our CEO, he's a marketing guy by trade. Right? He's one of the best marketers out there. So he actually still runs, if you look at our org chart, Kent's the CEO, but he also pops up as the manager of marketing as well, which technically reports to me as the COO. So when he's wearing his marketing director hat, technically he's reporting up through me, but he's also the CEO too, right? So again, not one way to cut it. I would always recommend looking at like an EOS type of structure for a good org chart. But the biggest takeaway I would give you is that the CEO and COO live above the line, so to speak, but all other departments or employees or contractors should absolutely report up through your COO. When we were running our rehabs at scale, one of the most successful ways, I think we talked about this a little bit in Austin.
Yeah.
So our rehab division, which is not too unlike a wholesaling business with a couple tweaks, but let's just talk about rehabbing, for example. I was the COO, and directly under me was our project manager. And our project manager had 3 general contractors that reported to him. So our project manager managed those three GCs that had their own subs and vendors and crews below them. But our project manager was tasked with basically working with those GCs, and he was tasked with getting them every deal we did, every rehab project we did. He would meet the GC on site, draft the scope of work, kick off the contract, do the benchmark, the rehab draws and the benchmarks and everything. And then he would just show up to every job twice a week and take videos and report it to me as the COO. That way, the CEO or any investors that we have on any of our jobs could ask, "Hey, how's our job that we're doing together at 123 Main Street?" I could just say, "Oh, let me just pull up the two videos that my project manager sent me," and then we just show our investor, the CEO, here's our most recent job progress on 123 Main Street. It's on track. We've done 2 or 3 draws. It's going to be done in this time. All because the project manager in the org chart was reporting to the COO that reports up.
Right. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's interesting.
By the way, because if you have contractors working directly with the CEO, it's the quickest way for shit to go off the rails.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, dude, this has been amazing, man. I feel like you have so much knowledge about business, but the hardest part about our industry is translating that business knowledge into wholesaling. You know what I mean? And to when you get to connect with people that have that level of business experience, and then also in the real estate industry, it's just a privilege to have you on the show, man. So I really appreciate you being an open book. Um, and if people wanted to learn more about you and everything that you have going on, how can people follow you, learn more?
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I appreciate you even asking, dude. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in San Diego. Not Jackson Hole, but San Diego in a few months, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm actually not a huge social media guy. You can find me on Facebook. I think you guys have my graphics there. I do have Facebook. I do have IG. I think my IG is mostly personal, but feel free to add me there. And then the Boardroom IG is really a good spot. Our Boardroom IG handle that's been flashing up. I think that I would probably direct most people to check out our Boardroom Instagram. We got a lot of cool shit, past events and upcoming events up there. So I would check that out.
Hell yeah, man. Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much. And everybody who tuned in, if you maybe tuned in late or you're catching the tail end of this, make sure to rewatch this on my YouTube channel, the Cash Geeks Network, or on iTunes, Spotify, all the above. Eddie, thanks again, man. And I will see you soon in a couple months. With that being said, guys, I am out and I will see you next Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. live Eastern.